The rarity of borrowed inflectional morphology. That there are few inflections which have been borrowed, especially in English language. If English borrows a foreign pattern of word formation, it should be expected to borrow inflectional affixes that conform to that pattern, as well as roots and derivational affixes. But English borrowed lexemes. English does not use French or Latin inflectional affixes on the verb. Whenever a verb is borrowed from English language, it has affixes of its own, right? A language acquires lexemes through borrowing rather than individual word forms. So it does not get word forms from English or Latin or other languages. It gets a words that, let's suppose that is a verb, right? So it will give its different forms of affixes, inflectional affixes of its own. If English speakers import a new word, especially a verb from French language, they'll not import just the past tense form, since we expect to be able to express in English not only the grammatical word past tense of verb, but also the other grammatical words, third person, singular present of verb, perfect participle, and other forms. So the verb, once borrowed from any language, let's say French, is given its inflectional affixes of English language. It is much more convenient to equip the new French source verb with word forms created in accordance with English verbal inflections, especially the most regular patterns of verbal inflection. S for third person, ed for past tense or past participle, and ing for progressive form or present participle form. The only condition under which English speakers are likely to borrow foreign words forms may be the grammatical words, which are not hard to learn, and they are mostly nouns, right? For example, in English we know that we get a word and which has a singular and plural, but English has borrowed word from Greek, Latin, and Hebrew, in which the word has been borrowed with its form, plural form as well. For example, we have Greek phenomenon and its plural phenomena, schema and schemata, Latin cactus and cacti, formula and formulae, datum or data, Hebrew cherub and cherubim, and cabetus and cabetusm. So the foreign plural are all vulnerables. Though English has borrowed these plural as well, but they have undergone a change, except some of them which are mostly used in daily conversation. Phenomena and data especially seem solidly established, right? But for the others, schemas, cactuses, formulas, cherubs, and cabetuses, they are made plural on the regular pattern of English language. However, if you look at this data, right, it's a plural, singular is datum, right? But so far as this word is concerned, in day-to-day English, this word data is used singular instead of a plural. Even data tends to be accommodated to English morphology, but by different method, as I just said, that it is used as plural, right? Only in a very specific scientific field, data and datum and data are distinguished. Otherwise, data is generally used as a singular word. The usual plural suffix is in both medieval and modern French is s, just as in English. So English has this noun formation, plural, singular and plural formation, similar to French language. So if the Englishman receive a word from French language, there is no problem for making it singular and plural. Just a few French borrowings sometimes retain in formal written English an idiosyncratic plural suffix x to make a plural, right? Like tableau and tableaux. The effect of these borrowings is to divide the class of noun with irregular plural into two classes: nouns that belong to everyday vocabulary and whose irregular plural survive for frequent use, right? Like teeth, like children, like mice, right? So these have still survived, but because they were more in regular use, and relatively rare or technical, survived as a badge of learning or sophistication. So only those terms survived which were a mark of sophistication or of a person's learning. So only these types of peculiarities of the plural survived. What we do not find are irregular plural that fall between these extremes that we have just, in nouns that are not particularly common but do not belong to technical or learned vocabulary either. So some of the nouns that have survived despite the fact that they do not belong to these two types that we have just discussed. So for example, we can think of a word that is oxen. It has still survived, right? So there are some exceptions like these in which the origin of the word formation has survived in English language. Otherwise, many of the words borrowed from other languages have been used in a regular way, like any English noun, as we make them singular, plural from singular languages. So for these reasons, we can say that there are rare borrowed inflections in English language, because English has used its own inflections on the borrowed words.